So welcome everybody to the Tenacity Project College Talks. We're excited to have Karin Corbett here today, who is someone I very much admire in the college coaching game and in our industry as a whole, for sports and women. And she's been a great advocate and a great leader on and off the field. And so we're pumped to have you here today, Karin. And just to get started, I can talk a little bit about your background, but I would love for everyone to hear your path in playing and coaching, and then we can move on with advice for the next generation of players and coaches in this time and beyond.
Sure. Well, thanks so much, Teresa, for asking me. I'm excited to be here. I am one of four girls, and three of us played field hockey and lacrosse in college. My mom was my first coach. So we just had a love for the game. And I ended up choosing the College of William and Mary, where I played both field hockey and lacrosse. Went there mostly for field hockey, but lacrosse was always a top 7 program. And we did better in lacrosse, actually, than we did in field hockey. But I love them both and never could decide which one I liked more. While I was at school, my junior year, I made the under 23 national team. And then when I graduated, I was on the US team for a couple years. And then I decided to coach. I was coaching field hockey at a high school, and I coached lacrosse at Rutgers and kind of various places. Then I ended up at Drew University coaching field hockey and lacrosse, and then ended up at Princeton wanting to get to Division I and choosing lacrosse. I find that coaching lacrosse is a little bit more fun for the game. I think the game is different, very different from high school to college. And I also feel that in field hockey, you have a lot of the practices, which are really fun. But once the game starts, you're right back, marks your left wing. Whereas in lacrosse, I think the coaches have a lot of control over the wins and the losses with their scouting, with their matchups, with the defenses they call, the offenses that they call. So I just had a lot of fun coaching the game. So I decided to commit to that. So I was at Princeton for 2 years, enjoyed that experience, but decided to get out of coaching, started my own business, and then the Penn job opened up. The coach had been there for 27 years, and they asked her to step down. So I applied in the summer and wasn't sure if I really wanted to do it, but got really excited about the prospect of rebuilding one of the oldest programs in the country. So I was lucky enough to get the job, and here I am 20 years later.
I love your path, just because, something I didn't know about you before was just about you starting your own business. And I didn't realize you didn't go straight from Princeton to Penn. So that's a really cool part of the story. And, when I was first considering coaching, I remember being a senior in college and realizing that coaches do so much more. You use all of you to be that coach. You are a business person, you're a salesperson, you have to know how to market. And then there's also the tactics and the technical work. You're sometimes a parent and a psychologist too, I find.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's really cool. It's a very full history and kind of a fun background to share with everybody. So along the way, I'm sure, when you first started coaching, you kind of saw prospects in a certain way, and even player development. I'm sure your ideas around that have evolved. What do you think you look for in athletes, and how has that changed along the way, just when you're looking for prospects really in this recruiting process? I guess at the same time, what are those qualities that you think make the athlete successful at that college level?
Yeah, I think when we first started, there were a lot of kids who maybe didn't pick up a stick until their freshman year. They were multi-sport athletes. A lot of the girls were really into soccer at a young age because that youth sports was just so big for soccer. And so I think that, it was fine to find the raw athlete, and they had concentrated on soccer, and then their stick skills weren't so great, but you just were recruiting that raw athlete who, you felt that you could develop into a lacrosse player. And I think that has changed a lot because youth lacrosse has grown so much. So they're starting at a really young age now and playing all the time. We still look for that multi-sport athlete, I think that when they can relate to other sports, which I love to do, then they kind of have a little bit more game sense, I think. And, other sports bring you that game sense. So I do like to see the multi-sport athlete. However, with the youth sports, I think it's really important that they have a good stick, that they have worked on that. Playing sports for that long, that many years, you should be pretty good at your craft. And I think that the technical skills are very important, and it shows that you've worked on them. I would say that above all, competitiveness is what coaches look for. You want a kid who's really competitive, who goes out there and wants to win the game. Somebody who, when the ball is taken from them, they go after it. Those are things that are tougher to teach. And so you want a kid that just has that competitive spirit in kind of everything that they do. I always joke about, when I play with my little 8-year-old, that I want to win. And I sometimes have to take a step back and let him win. But I think teaching him winning and losing and the value of that and sportsmanship, but also having that hunger to get better. And I think when you're a really competitive person, you're going to work hard on your game to be the best you can be. So I think it's finding that. And I think that's a challenge with youth sports today and kids growing up in youth sports, because sometimes they just play. That's what their parents signed them up for. Their friends are doing it. They don't know any different. And I think with recruiting, you have to find that kid that inherently is competitive, that inherently gets up to the line in a drill, in a ground ball drill, and is going to win that ball. They're going to do what it takes to win the ball. And I think that's an inner drive that you have to find in recruiting. And I think that's really, really strong. I think the tenacity, relentlessness of an athlete, the work ethic of an athlete, we're always looking for that as coaches. And then I think all coaches want to find kids that fit well with their team. Every team has a different dynamic. They look for different personalities within their team. And so getting to know that recruit as a person and what drives them and what they like to do, and just that feeling you get, would they fit in with your team? And I think all coaches are really looking for that. So it's really important to meet the recruits and their families to see, how are they brought up? I think that's important.
How do you measure, or how do you watch for competitiveness? And even if you were to break it down between like tournament, camp, and even on film, because we have to get a little creative in this time period, but how do you test for that, I guess?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it's what is hard. But I do think in tournaments, I love it I wish we could watch more high school games, because I do feel when the game is on the line, those kids that step up. So when you're watching a tournament and the game is close and it's a good rivalry, which kid is stepping up and taking the risk to have the ball, taking the risk to go to goal, but then also have the vision to see that is the person I need to dish this off so that person can win the game. The person who takes control of the game, the person who goes after the ball on defense, who doesn't just play to protect, but who goes after, who wants the ball, who makes plays. When you get the ball taken away from you, do you get it back? How are you on the ride? Do you just have that inner drive? I've got to get the ball back, and you fight for that. And I think that comes out when you see a game, especially a competitive game, when we're watching all these tournaments. I think at camp, again, I like the camps that have a little bit longer drills, not just 10, 15-minute drills, because I think it's really hard to get your teaching across and to get the kids to get their reps. But when you have sort of the longer drills, 30 minutes, where you can build on something and you can make it competitive. And then you also have the competitive drills at camp, to see those kids that really rise to that, who, again, it's a small game, but they just have that competitive drive that they want to win that game, that drill, do their best. And they also want to get better. So they take your coaching, they work hard at your coaching. And, they just really try to implement what you're asking of them. I think that shows a lot as well. With video, I think that, again, showing what you're working on in this time, especially, can you work on your stick? Are you getting better from when we saw you in November till when we hopefully see you again, or when we see your videos? Showing clips of games where you show some of those things, some of those relentlessness in the ride, the great plays defensively, going to goal when the game is on the line. I know some kids will send game clips of big games that they you can tell by the celebrations from everybody else that was a big moment. So I think those things are really, as coaches, we want to see those kids that take those chances, take those risks, and go for it, and really really just don't relax on the field. At every moment they're out there, they're giving their all.
I love that. You know, a lot of times when we do college talks at camps, all the coaches kind of talk about filming the mistakes and the way that you recover. So I think that's super valuable. And like any of the 50-50 balls, they don't seem like the things that you would show on a highlight reel, but they're very valuable because it kind of sees how you get in there, box out, and you kind of get into the messy moments.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, so we've talked about the qualities that you're looking for and kind of how to watch that. With communication these days, obviously email is good, social media. Can you talk a little bit about frequency and, you know, maybe even like how long videos should be or what you think is effective without going over the top?
Yeah, I think that, videoing coaches once a month, if you have great game clips from tournaments that you were in last summer or in the fall, if you have some good footage of your freshman year, we'd love to see that. I think that real live games are great. And I think a lot of these tournaments are wonderful in that they have videotape of you. So getting a hold of those actual playing moments would be wonderful. I would say that we probably will watch a good 5 to 10 minutes of live of the video from games. You can also show us your stick work. You can show us your shooting if you have been working on that, because we can see a little bit of accuracy. We're getting some videos of moves, people setting up cones and different things and seeing them switch hands and dodging and then picking a spot and ripping it to that spot. They have a partner or a sibling. They're doing some behind the back passes to each other. Seeing if it gets there, I think is always, you can see come back behind the back passes, but are you accurate and how are your hands? I think that's really important in this time that we see that you've been working on your stick, because I really think there's just no excuse to come back. Hopefully we come back in September or whenever we come back that you have a good stick, that you can catch lefty, righty, off your hip, bad passes, high passes, that you have to stick away from your body, behind the back. Just shows that you're willing to put a lot of time into your craft, which then we feel as coaches, you're going to put the time in once you get to us.
Yeah, I love that. When I was first coaching, I looked a lot for the raw athletes, and then I realized the will to work might need to be almost ahead of the raw athleticism. So I think it's good, and it's something that people are being conditioned to do now. You have to get better when nobody's watching and do a lot on your own.
Exactly.
So it's creating those habits. So, and do you think once a month, or just anytime you have something new, like what we always say is like, don't write a coach and tell them that you tied your shoes today. Have a reason to write. That's kind of helpful, like a new transcript or maybe new video content, and just keep it. I mean, these days with the stick tricks, those could be like 30 to 90 seconds.
Yeah, they can be really short. I think that you also could always, if you're emailing a couple, once every 2 weeks or a month, I think adding on video, and you can say, I've sent you this, but just want to make sure you have it. Because I think sometimes the amount of emails coaches get, and then the time that we open them to the time that we see them again. So you can always have them resend links that they might have sent before. Some kids will say, hey, I sent you this, 3 months ago, but I have an update on this. But I'd love to see the link maybe from 3 months ago, just because I think as coaches, we all thought that we would be able to see them all summer, and we're not sure. So if you have some good video that maybe you had sent in the past, don't be afraid to just add that to the email and just keep adding footage. And you can say, I showed you, I sent this back in November, but I thought it was a good highlight. And then coaches have a choice on what they can click on and go back to, just presenting us with the opportunity to see you play. If for some reason, the summer is not allowed to happen, then you have sent us video that we can use, and then be in a different place in September with that.
And what a great thing to see their progress too, right?
Yeah.
Like the first videos, their videography is probably even getting better over time.
Exactly.
And hopefully like the measurable stuff, like the speed of their hands and the stick work is also something you can watch from first video to last. So I like that with
Definitely.
including the past ones.
I also think with goalkeepers, if you have the opportunity to have a parent, and you have tennis balls or a tennis racket, I think that as coaches, what's really valuable for us to see for goalkeepers is their hand quickness.
Mhm.
So also I think some goalie clips where you're actually doing just something in the net where someone's shooting on you or hitting tennis balls at you, like that's valuable. So if you can find that person to do that, that can really help, because I think sometimes those small moments with goalkeepers allow us to see more than actual game footage at times. We just really need to see how quick your hands are. So I think a goalie can do that in this time if they have a partner or somebody who can shoot on them or hit tennis balls at them. That would be really valuable for goalies.
Great. I I uh, I like that you added in the goalies, because I do think that the video needs to look different for the field players and the goalies. Um, well, I would love to just hear any advice or any motivation that you think you could offer girls in this process. Anything that you'd like to add as some
Yeah.
final thoughts?
I think for one thing for this time, just for the kids that are going through this COVID and being really stressed out about it, just knowing that all of the 2022s are in the same boat. And I know that it's hard, and you're nervous, and are people going to see me? It is going to be a little bit different timeline for some kids, but I think that you need to understand you're all in the same boat, and eventually you will be seen. But just continue to show your interest, continue to send videos, and there's so many places for you to end up. And so I think that's important. I think using this time to go online and look at some admissions videos to see maybe what schools do interest you, and be open to different types of schools that are in a city, schools that are big, schools that are small, seeing, really what they're about, reading up about them on the admissions website. I think it's a great opportunity for them to do some research while they have the time and they're not in season, to see what schools offer, what are the programs like. Follow them on social media, see if you like the culture of the program and the players and what they're putting out there. But a lot of schools have great admissions videos where you can have virtual tours of a campus. And I would just do that, because I think some people have a picture in their mind of what a school looks like when they've never been there. And I think they would be very surprised going on to online and seeing some of these schools that maybe they thought were a city and has a lot of grass and trees that they didn't think would happen, or they go to a place and it seems like the numbers are small, but the campus just really appeals to them, or it's a big campus and they realize that's what I really want. So I think it's a great opportunity for them to do research for themselves and get a wide variety of schools, as they don't know maybe where coaches stand, but see what might really interest them. And I think that is a good way for them to just kind of see what's out there and create a list themselves. I also think it's important for them to do a little research on the different teams and see, do schools, start freshmen? Some schools don't. What is their roster size? Are they okay with that big roster? What is their goal of playing right away versus not playing right away? Are they okay with that? I think they need to know themselves. I think that's really, really important. Are you somebody who needs to start? Are you somebody who is going to be okay maybe sitting the bench for a couple years, but you're going to work towards that? I think that's really important. So understanding the roster and what a team needs and what they recruit every year and how many people maybe get in a game and those kind of things are great. I think a great time now to do some of that research to see kind of what they really want. So I would suggest that. I think, again, also when you are being recruited, to think about questions to ask coaches this summer, so that if you are called on September 1st or in that first month, or you do get to go on campus and see people, that you have some questions. I think we are trying to know who you are, learn all about you. And I think when a coach says, do you have any questions? And a recruit has none, you kind of want to say, well, what do you want in a college? So I think it's really important for them to do the work now, to know what they want in a program and in a college, what they need from a coach, what they need from a program. Knowing if there's somebody that has to be motivated by their coach to play, or are they somebody who's self-motivated? I think those are some, the Ivies are very different than the non-Ivies in our practice time. So who are you as a person? What do you want as a program? And be willing, to have a lot of questions for the coaches. I think we're always impressed when kids come in with a lot of questions that they're very interested in. We also want to know who you are in the process. So we'll be asking questions, and we want to hear from you. We want, some coaches will have the parents in the room. Some coaches might not have the parents in the room. We understand that parents are a big part of this process, and that we want to talk with them as well. But we also understand that we'll be coaching the daughter, and so we want them to put on, who they are in front of us, and be able to come to the phone with questions. It's your time to get to know the coach. It's your time to get to know the staff. It's your time to get to know the school and what it has to offer, and not just have the coach spew out everything to you. I think once you start having questions, you tend to learn more than just being talked at. You get to dive into more what interests you and what you really want to know. And that's an evolving process as you talk to more coaches. But I think really thinking about that this summer as we head into the recruiting process will be really important.
I like that. Super helpful. All great tips for the girls. I have one last question for you, and I've been happy for this. What have you laughed about this week?
Well, we've been doing some Zoom calls with our teams, and one of my funny things, my ops person, who's hilarious, Amy, we were talking about The Last Dance, which you've been watching The Last Dance.
So good. Yeah.
So great. Love Michael Jordan, love basketball. We were talking about it on the call yesterday, and then today we had another call, and I asked the small group again if they'd watched it, and she said, and I also asked them, is there anything funny that's happened? And Amy said, I love dancing. So I was told my kids, we have to watch The Last Dance because it's about dancing. And then she gets on, she's like, this is about dancing. So I thought that was really funny. She loved it. She loves basketball, but I don't know how she didn't know about The Last Dance, because I feel like everybody does. But so anyway, just funny stories with some of the quarantining with our players. But I thought that was really funny that she didn't even know what it was and then found out. So I love that movie, or the show, the documentary that's going on. I think a lot of athletes should watch it. I think it shows, Michael Jordan was one of the best for working every day to be the best. And as a coach, you love those players who just challenge themselves to be the best that they can be. They master a move. They want to learn a new move. They master a shot. They want to have another shot. And they're always coming to you with, what can I do to get better? And I think this is a great time to do that. Working on your dodging, working on your shooting, working on your stick skills. What are you showing the coaches that you're willing to do to be a part of their program and to become an All-American someday on their team? That's what all coaches hope for.
Love that. Thank you so much for your inspiration, for your leadership, and I wish you continued health.
Thanks, Teresa. I wish you the best. I said this to you the other day, but I'm so impressed with how much you bring lacrosse to so many girls out there in different states, and you work so hard, tirelessly, to make your players better, to give them the opportunity to grow and to spread this game that we both love. So thank you, Teresa, for all that you do for lacrosse.
Thank you, Karin. Appreciate you being a part of this.
Thanks so much for asking.